All right. Hey, everybody. I am Sherry. I'm an owner at Odyssey Pets in Dallas, Texas. If you are watching this after 4 p.m. on Wednesday, July 7th, you're watching it in replay. We are going to have a trivia question later for anybody that is listening live. But it is Freeze Dried Frenzy Month here at Odyssey Pets, and we're celebrating all things freeze dried and why it's so awesome. We got some killer deals happening. And we are honored today to have Ashley with Small Batch Pet Foods with us today to talk about freeze dried, why it's so awesome, and why Small Batch in particular is so cool too. What's going on, Ashley?
How are you?
Good. How long have you been in the industry? You've been in the pet industry for a while, right?
I have. I've been in the pet industry now for about 13 years it's been. I started out on the doggy daycare side of things, running a doggy daycare for, about 6 or 7 years. And we did have a small retail section in the daycare, and that just sort of got me interested in nutrition for our companion animals, and sort of, all the nuances in our industry, and sort of digging a little bit deeper into what's actually, biologically appropriate for our kiddos. And that's sort of where my passion landed. I came over to the manufacturer side, I guess about 6-7 years ago now. I've been working for a couple of pretty awesome companies. I've been with Small Batch now for about 3 years.
That's awesome. I'm a huge Small Batch fan, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's just jump on into freeze dried. This is a growing sector of the pet food market. Some people, I think, still don't understand quite what it is. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just, as far as the process goes, when we talk about freeze dried, when, I'm chatting with people that are brand new to it, the first example I use is like astronaut food for dogs. That's what we're talking about. It's just a method of, yes, right there. Method, that's what it looks like. Perfect. Just a method of drying and preserving food that we're ultimately removing the moisture at a very low temperature. Rather than using high heat to get rid of that moisture. So what happens is we take our raw ingredients, they're frozen, they're placed under a vacuum. That vacuum converts the water into vapor, and boom, the water's gone, and we have not had to apply any high heat to the product, which could ultimately remove some of those clean, beautiful nutrients that we want to keep in raw food. So just a very nice method of preserving everything in a shelf-stable form.
Right. And I say this every day when I'm talking to people. Anytime you apply heat to food, nutrition is degraded. So, even a steamed piece of broccoli is not as good for us as a raw one. And the same goes for dogs when we talk about meat. Now, these machines that you're talking about, they're like huge, right?
Yeah, they're big.
Like you can walk inside.
100%, yeah. They're big. We actually just purchased our own, which is very exciting. We're freeze drying all of our own food these days, which is really, really cool. But yes, they're massive. It's done on a larger scale for sure.
Nice. And not only is most of the nutrients retained, but it's like shelf stable for a really long time because it is like astronaut food, right?
So. Exactly. Yeah. Very shelf-stable option, which is great for several reasons. One, of course, if you want all of the benefits of feeding fresh, raw food, but you're traveling, camping, need to preserve freezer space, refrigerator space, all of those things, or, you don't want to do all of the cooking and preparation yourself. This is that kind of one-stop shop for a very, very nice shelf-stable option. Yeah.
So I wanted to show everybody. This is so I've been showing you the little pieces. So they have these little bites. I like the bites a lot because you can we're gonna move on to this. What's it good for?
Oh, there you go. I got ahead of that.
There you go. So the little pieces are great. I use them as training treats because it's actually cheaper to buy something like this than like treats from the treat section. And it's super healthy. Otherwise, you've got these, like, you call them sliders, right?
Yeah, those are freeze-dried sliders.
So this is, and their raw food looks exactly like this. It's the same size. This just doesn't have the moisture in it. And you can just break it up into like a powder or like little pieces, and sprinkle that on their food or add moisture back to it to make it a full diet. I like the beef a lot. It smells good. But that's what I got right here.
Oh, nice. No, you bring up a great point. So one of my favorite things to do with those freeze-dried sliders is to break them up exactly like you said. You can sprinkle it over a dry food, a kibble, and add some moisture back into it, whether it's water, warm water, a broth, a goat's milk, any kind of moisture. And, in just a few minutes, even seconds, you've turned kind of a little bit of a boring dry bowl into a beautiful aromatic, kind of very wholesome, dynamic bowl for your pet. It's got that moisture in it. You're increasing the palatability through the roof. Freeze-dried food is incredibly palatable for both dogs and cats. So just a really, really nice, convenient way to be able to boost that bowl.
I'm glad you said that. Because what's weird is that I do feed raw to my dogs, and I always have a bag of this in my pantry just in case I forget to bring raw home. But when my puppy was younger, he was very finicky, even with his raw food. But if I just crumbled some freeze-dried on top, then he would eat it. And I'm like, it's the same thing, just in a different format. But I don't know, the smell is different or something. So
yeah, I think without the moisture in there, and then adding the moisture back in, and I think that does increase the palatability and the aromatic aspect of it too. I hear that all the time, and yeah, definitely.
Good to know it's not just me.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a thing.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, now I have a new puppy, and I bring him to work, and I always have a bag of this to give him some lunch. And then he gets his raw food when he's at home. So I wanted to talk about why Small Batch is awesome too, because it is one of our best sellers and it's one of my favorite companies. I love everything you guys are doing. Can you give us a quick rundown?
Yeah, absolutely. So Small Batch, we were founded back in 2004. We are still a family-owned company. There are 15 of us in our company now, after 17 years. So we're keeping the small in Small Batch. We have a few principles that really, really set us apart. So at Small Batch, what we do exclusively is going to be frozen raw and freeze-dried raw. And the thing that we are the most passionate about at Small Batch is going to be our humanely raised and harvested principles, which means that we are never utilizing any factory farmed meat, no mechanically separated meat, no byproducts. We are only utilizing, whole muscle cuts, organs, bones, all of the, parts of the animal that are really going to provide all of the nutrients and the benefits from raw food. And so, to that same point, David, so we're owned by three family members, David, Michael, and Diana, are the Vogel family that founded us. David is the brother who does all of our sourcing, maintains the relationships with our farmers. He believes that the way that you and I treat our companion animals with love and respect and just making sure that they're living their best life possible, he believes that the animals that we source deserve that exact same respect. So that's something that we are extremely, extremely passionate about at Small Batch, not only as it pertains to the quality of the food, of course, the ethical treatment of animals, and also our carbon footprint and our sustainability, how the impact that we have on the environment. So that's the other reason.
For sure. I was going to say factory farming, you guys, is awful. I don't know if you've watched some of the documentaries out there, but it'll freak you out. So I love companies like you that are trying to make a difference. We're not going to change factory farming overnight, but it's little steps with great companies like y'all doing the good work. So thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted. Y'all have organic veg and stuff too.
You finished my sentence. That was exactly right. It's those factory farms. And I always, if people can, watch those documentaries, look at the emissions that come out of those facilities, what they're doing to our environment and the sustainability of our planet, it's just, it's pretty horrendous, right? And so making sure that we are utilizing small family-owned farms who are very concerned with land stewardship and sustainability the same way that we are. That's the way that we hopefully get to keep going, right? In that regard. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of our number one principle at Small Batch. The other big thing that we're really proud of is that we don't use any synthetics in our food. So rather than adding a synthetic vitamin pack into the diet in order to make it complete and balanced, we're utilizing or we're pulling all of our vitamins, minerals, health properties like anti-inflammatory, all the cardiovascular properties. We're pulling all of those from real whole food sources. So you will not see that long paragraph of the unrecognizable, unpronounceable words at the end of our ingredient deck. It's really fun. Sherry, I'm sure you've gotten to do it in the store, to put the bag in someone's hand, and as a consumer to be able to pronounce and recognize, all of the things that are on there. Perfect. There it is. Yep.
Right. So and I can read, I can eyeball it and see like everything looks normal. There isn't like these big giant words. Now, why should we care about synthetic vitamins? Is it because they're just not as bioavailable for the body to use?
Bingo, that's number one. They're not going to be as bioavailable. Same for you and I. Something synthetic is not as recognizable to our body and therefore not as bioavailable. What we're going to pull from real, fresh, green food versus what we're going to pull from a foreign synthetic, it's going to be very, very different, right? We're also not running the risk of any overdose, by keeping synthetics out. That's a big one for us. And then it also, lends to the fact that we don't have any fillers. Everything that you read on that ingredient deck, every single ingredient serves a purpose in our diets, and that's just the way that it should be. You don't need anything fake in there that isn't providing nutrient content for the animal.
That's amazing. I'm trying to eat more whole foods myself, rather than processed stuff. Yeah. But yeah, love it. Is there anything else you want to add on that?
As far as the basic small batch principles go, all of our produce is going to be organic, non-GMO, and pesticide free. It's also all going to be whole produce. We're not using any seconds, any industry leftovers, anything like that. All the produce is just going to go in there whole and beautiful. And then, we did kind of touch on mechanically separated meat. It's not something that we use. It's also not something that gets talked about in the industry.
That's what I wanted to, I actually want to say that, because whenever you look at an ingredient panel and it says like, if it just says chicken or if it says chicken meal, what does that mean?
Yeah, so mechanically separated meats, what it is, it's sort of a bit of a dirty secret in the pet food industry, and in my opinion, because when it's used in the human world, it has to be labeled as such. So a very common example is if you go over to the gas station and you purchase a Slim Jim. The first ingredient will be perhaps whatever they put in there, perhaps chicken, and then in parentheses or before the word chicken, it will say mechanically separated. So that you are getting that product rather than actual muscle meat that would should have perhaps gone in there. In the pet food world, it doesn't have to be labeled separately. So Sherry, what you just said, it could say chicken, and you don't actually know if you're getting the whole beautiful parts of the animal that are actually going to provide the nutrient content that we want, or if you're getting a byproduct that's going to be very high in fat, that is going to have been through an entirely separate process of equipment, which means extra surface contact, which means in the pet food world, extra surface contact translates, to the opportunity for extra bacterial colonization, which just isn't, something that we can have in our world. So kind of my point is that it without it having to be labeled in the pet food world, it's definitely a question that I like to encourage folks to ask if it is a product that's being used in the food, because it is so high in fat. It's nutritionally inconsistent in general. Because it is all of those leftover parts, pieces, you don't know exactly kind of what you're getting. And again,
I was going to say, when people hear mechanically separated, if I wasn't in this industry, it just sounds like a robot is doing like pulling the meat off the bone, but that's not it, right?
No, and you're right. It's not, the term itself does not lend perfectly to what the process is. I always encourage folks, if you want to Google mechanically separate meat, if you have a strong stomach, don't do it while you're eating. But yeah, no, it's just, it literally, what they do is there's a carcass that has already had the most desirable parts harvested from it. Rather than throwing all of those leftover parts away, everything gets sort of piled into this big metal funnel. Everything is ground up together and then comes out as sort of the quintessential pink slime.
Like
you know.
Yeah. When I saw a video of that a long time ago, and they were talking about hot dogs. Like, I didn't eat hot dogs for 2 years.
Yeah, it's the hot dogs, chicken nuggets, all of those. But again, at least in our world, we know that we're consuming it because it has to be labeled. In our pets world, we don't have any way to know, because of the packaging regulations, what has to be put on there. Yeah.
Right, and a lot of the big companies out there that have like the marketing, they'll have like big pieces of chicken breast on the label and everything, but they're not using that. They're using the leftovers and like scraping what's left off the bone, and that's what's going into the food.
Correct.
And yeah, it does mess with the fat content and the protein content, right?
Yep, 100%. Very high in fat, very low in protein.
Yeah, that's not good.
Nope.
All right. Well, I think we don't have many viewers watching. But I did promise to give away some freeze-dried. So if somebody wants to email me this answer, whoever emails me first will get this bag of freeze-dried small batch duck bites. I don't know if we actually said, when was Small Batch founded? Did you actually say the date?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
said a year.
Okay. So what year was Small Batch founded? First person to email me that's local to Dallas will win this bag for free, and this is retail $19.99. And if anybody has any questions, you can always message me on Facebook, send me an email. By the way, it's info@odysseypets.com. Or I'm sure they can reach out to Small Batch as well, smallbatchpets.com. You guys have a Facebook presence too?
We do. We have a very heavy Instagram and Facebook presence, and you can definitely check us out there. You can always reach out directly. We have a phone number on there, and then our email is ask@smallbatchpets.com. And you can always find us for any questions that you need answered.
Beautiful, beautiful. And then I am at odysseypets.com, and I really want to thank everybody for watching. I want to encourage everyone to feed as good a food as you can to your pets, because they deserve it. You know, they can't go out and pick their own food. So whatever your budget allows, just try to pick the best. Do your research. And if you have any questions, just ask one of us, and we'll try to get you the best answer possible that we can. So from Ashley and me, I'm Sherry. Thank you guys. Y'all have a good evening, okay?
Thank you so much.
We'll see you later. Thanks, Ashley.
Thanks, Sherry.